Hello, my lovelies, and welcome to this week's podcast. This week's podcast, I wanted to talk about death. I know it sounds a little bit morbid, but it's relevant to all of us, and it's touched on me a little bit this week. More in particular, I had a client that came into the salon who'd lost her mum, and it resonated with me, as it has done with lots of my other clients, and I'm sure some of you listeners as well. So I just wanted to touch on death and the fact that it's okay to talk about it. And the one thing that I never want anyone to ever feel if you have any interaction with myself or anyone in my salon is to feel embarrassed or to apologise for anything. Obviously my client was extremely upset, as we all are, and we all deal with things slightly differently with death, but you never ever need to apologise for feeling the way that you feel. So yeah, this week I wanted to talk about death and how it affects people differently. I can only speak from my point of view and obviously some things that clients have said. Obviously, as you guys know, I'm not a counsellor or anything, so if you feel like the grief has overwhelmed you, please obviously seek professional support and advice. There's so many available options out there for you. So to tell you a little bit about my story, I guess I would class myself as very lucky that I'd never really experienced death that I remember of such a magnitude before my mum passed away. My mum unfortunately passed away in awful circumstances. I did know that she was obviously terminal. She had cancer. It had spread in lots and lots of places, and bless her, she was trying to hide how much it had spread, I guess, because I was pregnant and I had my own issues with my pregnancy. I was very ill during my pregnancy. So bless my mum, she actually passed away a few weeks after I gave birth to my son Mason. And even though it was expected, it was very soon and very sudden, and I don't know how to explain it. It's the most bizarrest thing when people say, well, is it better to have known beforehand so that you can say your byes? But you don't actually recognise that at that moment in time that you probably should be saying bye. You're probably actually grieving, in my opinion. You're grieving for the person, even though they're still around. You're grieving for the loss that is going to happen while they're still actually around. So for me personally, I found it really, really hard knowing that my mum was going to die, and obviously her health deteriorated and she got worse. So seeing the person that you love the most in the world it's heartbreaking. So some people say, oh, well, if you got knocked over by a bus, then you don't have time to say your goodbye. So anyway, that's a whole debate and a whole different answer, I guess. I guess there's no right and wrong way with that one. All I can say from my experience was it's awful. It really is. It's the most awfulest time of your life, and you don't know where to turn. You don't know where to go for support sometimes. Sometimes your doctors, your GPs can not be the world's best. I remember obviously I just had Mason. Mason, bless him, had loads of complications. He was in hospital after he was born. I had lots of complications after he was born, and I was in hospital for days as well. I was very, very poorly on six drips. I was very, very ill. And bless my mum, she kept going and going and going until I said, Mum, I'm okay, I'm out of hospital. And then obviously she let go and passed away a few days later. So it's very, very traumatic. And I guess the reason I wanted to do this podcast is firstly to let my listeners know, and my clients who are amazing and we share stories with each other, that you're not alone. And it is okay to talk about death. It has a massive taboo where people don't know what to say. So the best advice I can give somebody who is going through a bereavement is don't ever apologise for wanting to talk about it. There's no right or wrong way to grieve. Just please make sure that you have some form of grief, whether that's, traditionally crying, going for walks, for want of a better word, wanting to kick a cat. You need to express your emotions, whether that's going running and screaming at the top of your lungs, whether that's having hugs off everybody, Putting the covers over your head. I did that a few times. I cried with the covers over my head lots and lots of times, but obviously having a new baby, I didn't really have time to properly grieve. Because obviously when you're a new mum, that's the first and most important thing. But it also, I guess with me, more particularly losing my mum, it gave me a more appreciation of how much of an amazing superwoman she actually was, and how much she must love me because I had this gorgeous little baby that was relying on me. So I guess Mason, my little boy, got me through the death of my mum, and it's been 8.5 years, and even now talking to you guys, it's emotional, and you should never apologise for being emotional about love, because ultimately we're all here to be loved, and we want to be loved, and we also want to give love. And when somebody who's very significant in your life passes away, whether it's sudden or expected, a big part of you dies itself. How one of my customers and friends explained it to me was, you never run right the same. You learn to live with grief. You learn to accept eventually that they've gone, but you need to go through all the different emotions of anger and hurt, betrayal. There's all sorts of different stages of grief. And please, like I say, if you are struggling more than what you think is bearable, then please seek professional help. But you do need to go through all the stages of grief. I remember being angry at my mum, and that's the most awfulest thing to say and admit, but I was angry that she left me. I'd just had a brand new baby, I was poorly myself, and she left me. Obviously, my logical brain is like, Jody, that is the most ridiculous thing you will ever say in your life. But I berated myself for feeling like that because I didn't know. Sometimes, anger and the loneliness is part of the grief process, and you do get overwhelmed with feelings of guilt because you're mad that they left you, and why did they leave you? Obviously, they didn't choose to leave you, and obviously, depending on what you believe and your faith and things, they maybe your guardian angels are looking over you in some other aspect, or there's a balance in nature. So yeah, what I'm trying to say is you must talk to somebody. It doesn't matter whether it's been 2 weeks, 2 months, 20 years, 8 years. Never, ever, ever be ashamed to talk about the fact that you don't feel how you used to feel. In truth, I don't ever think I will feel how I felt before my mum passed, but I'm good. I'm having an amazing life. I try and get my sparkle back as much as I possibly can. But there's the odd moment, and that will send me over the edge. When I smell burnt toast, for example, I have a memory. It's not even so much as a memory of my mum. It's a memory of my childhood with my brother and my mum, with beans on toast, and it just gets me upset sometimes, and other times it makes me laugh. My mum used to smoke, so I went into a newsagent's to pick up a parcel, and it smelled of what I would call old tobacco shops, and that set me off. And that's okay. You don't ever need to apologise for missing somebody who you loved and adored. So yeah, that is my story. I still struggle. I don't struggle every day, but there are moments where, yeah, it does get on top of you. And you're allowed to be emotional. You're allowed to grieve them. You're allowed to miss them. And if there's any advice I can give you, if you are going through a bereavement, is talk. Even if you just talk to yourself. Talk to your diary. Write something. Talk to anybody. Ring me if you need to ring me. Lots of my clients come in and they've had a loved one passed, and we have a cuppa and a hug. And I talk about, how I feel, they talk about how they feel. And sometimes it's just really nice and healing to have a hug and a chat from somebody. So make sure you reach out to somebody who will listen to you, even if it's been 10 years and you think, oh, I'm okay. Sometimes you just need to talk and remember them in your own way. Everyone will remember people in different ways. So I hope me being raw and real and obviously emotional, I'm sure you can hear it in my voice, will remind you that we are human. We are here to be loved, and we want to love people. And obviously when someone we love passes, you do feel a massive hole in your heart, but there are so many other things that will fill your hole, whether that's partners, children, friends, work colleagues, customers. We all can give each other a little bit of love. So one of the reasons I launched this podcast was obviously to try and get our sparkle back as women. We're always rushing around. We're always putting everybody else first. So this is me saying to you guys, look after yourself. Take time to grieve if you need the time to grieve. And even if it's 2 years after the event, you still need time to grieve. Talk about it and be kind to yourself. Make sure that you spend time looking after yourself. If you need to go and look out of a window on a rainy day and remember the loved one with a cup of tea, you go do that. If you need to stop and laugh and put some music on, you go do that. I hope I've given you a little bit of insight and a bit of help and advice. But like I say, please, please, please see a professional if you feel like you need to see a professional. Hopefully, if you need to reach out to me, you're welcome to do so. But hopefully I've given you a little bit of an insight. Lots of love to you all. And I will see you on the next episode. Lots of love, ladies. Have an amazing week. Keep your sparkle on.